Omar Al Sayeed had everything: wealth, success, and a loving family, until a weekend desert trip with his daughter Laila ended in their mysterious disappearance. 5 years later, his wife Mariam uncovered a truth so horrifying it shattered everything she believed about the man she once called her husband. In the golden suburbs of Dubai, life appeared flawless for the Al Sayeed family. Omar Al Sayeed, a 42-year-old real estate developer, was respected in business circles for his intelligence, generosity, and calm nature. His wife, Mariam, was admired for her kindness and creativity, managing a small but elegant art gallery. Their 8-year-old daughter, Laila, was the heart of their home, a cheerful child with big dreams and an unbreakable bond with her father. To anyone looking from the outside, they seemed to have a life others envied: love, luxury, and stability. That Friday morning, the family breakfasted together before Omar announced his plan for a weekend getaway with Laila. He wanted to take her on a short desert trip, something they had talked about for months but never found the time for. Mariam was hesitant at first. The heat had been intense lately, and the vast desert always made her uneasy. But Omar reassured her it would be safe, promising to return by Sunday evening. He packed their SUV with supplies, camping gear, and a small camera to record memories of their father-daughter adventure. Mariam stood at the gate, waving as the car disappeared down the street. Hours later, she received cheerful photos from Omar, Laila smiling in the golden dunes, the sun setting behind them. That night, she slept peacefully, believing they were safe beneath the stars. But by Sunday evening, her world changed forever. The phone calls went unanswered, messages showed no response, and the tracking app she had once set up for emergencies displayed nothing. The last signal from Omar's car came from deep within the Labab desert before it vanished entirely. From that moment, silence began to fill every corner of her life. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, but there was no sign of Omar or Laila. The Labab Desert, once a peaceful stretch of golden sand, became a haunting symbol of loss for Mariam. Police searched tirelessly in the beginning. Helicopters hovered over endless dunes. Rescue teams combed remote tracks, and trained dogs followed faint scents that led nowhere. The desert seemed to have swallowed the father and daughter whole. After several weeks, the official investigation slowed down, and soon, the case was quietly pushed aside as another unresolved mystery. Mariam refused to accept that her husband and child had vanished without a trace. Every day, she visited police stations, called journalists, and contacted anyone who could help. She offered rewards, pleaded with officials, and even consulted private investigators who promised results but delivered none. She would drive to the desert herself, sitting in silence as the wind shifted the sand, covering and uncovering old tire marks, the only reminder that her family had once passed through. Years began to slip by like dry grains through her fingers. The house that once echoed with laughter now stood in lifeless silence. Omar's business partners slowly distanced themselves, whispering that he may have escaped with hidden money. Friends stopped visiting, unsure what to say. Still, Mariam clung to hope. She kept Layla's room untouched, her toys neatly arranged, her schoolbooks waiting. 5 long years later, when hope had nearly faded, Mariam received a message from an unknown number. The man claimed to have seen an abandoned SUV near the Oman border, half buried in sand, with a number plate that matched Omar's. For the first time in years, Mariam felt her heart beat with both fear and desperate hope. Something told her the truth was finally about to surface. Mariam drove for hours under the harsh desert sun, her hands trembling on the steering wheel as she followed the directions from the message. The salvage yard sat miles away from any town, surrounded by wind-beaten fences and scattered wreckage. Amid the piles of crushed metal and dust, she saw it, the faded white SUV that once belonged to her husband. The sight froze her in place. The vehicle was covered in sand and rust, the windows shattered, the license plate barely visible but unmistakably Omar's. Authorities arrived soon after. They taped off the area and began a detailed examination. Inside the SUV, they found traces of a life frozen in time. A child's hairband caught in the seatbelt, a half-empty water bottle, and a layer of sand thick enough to suggest years of abandonment. But what truly shattered Mariam's heart was a small, torn piece of pink fabric wedged beneath the back seat. It was from Layla's favorite backpack, the one she had taken on every trip. Forensics worked carefully through the night. Blood traces were found beneath the seat, faint but present. DNA testing confirmed it belonged to Omar. The discovery stunned investigators and reopened the case instantly. What began as a disappearance was now suspected to be something far darker. As the vehicle was towed for further analysis, another shocking detail emerged. In a hidden compartment under the trunk carpet, police found a small pouch containing several documents and a fake passport under a different name, Omar Haddad. The passport carried Omar's photo but a different identity, with visa stamps from countries Mariam had never heard him mention. The desert, silent for years, had finally begun whispering the truth, and it was far more disturbing than she ever imagined. The fake passport changed everything. Investigators began tracing financial records linked to Omar's business dealings, and what they found unraveled the picture of the devoted husband and father everyone thought they knew. Months before his disappearance, Omar had quietly transferred large sums of money to offshore accounts in Cyprus, Singapore, and Hungary. The transactions led police to a name that would become the key to the mystery: Alina Kovacs, a Hungarian real estate consultant who had once worked closely with him on several luxury projects in Dubai. Digging deeper, authorities uncovered that Omar and Alina had been partners not just in business, but in a massive property fraud scheme. Together, they had siphoned millions from investors through fake projects, selling non-existent plots of land to wealthy clients. As suspicion grew among investors, Omar began planning his escape. He created false identities, withdrew hidden funds, and confided in no one. Not even Mariam knew that the man she shared her life with had been preparing to vanish. The evidence suggested that on the weekend of the so-called desert trip, Omar intended to flee with Laila. His daughter, innocent and trusting, was to travel under a forged identity to Oman, and from there, to another country. But something went terribly wrong. Satellite records showed that Omar's car stopped for hours near an unfinished construction site deep in the desert, a place far from any travel route. Police launched a new search there, digging through layers of hardened sand and cement. What they unearthed shocked everyone. Buried together were the remains of a woman and a child. The woman was later identified as Alina Kovacs. The child's DNA matched Laila. Omar's body, however, was nowhere to be found. It was clear now. He had survived and disappeared again, leaving death and betrayal buried beneath the desert floor. The discovery of the two bodies brought global attention back to the Al Sayeed case. Forensic experts pieced together the grim puzzle of what had really happened in the desert that night. Evidence showed that Alina and Omar had a violent confrontation, likely over the stolen money and his decision to include his daughter in the escape. During the argument, Omar struck Alina, killing her instantly. Laila, terrified and confused, had witnessed everything. What happened next was an act of desperation and cruelty. Omar silenced his own child to conceal the truth forever. After burying the bodies near the abandoned construction site, he carefully staged his own disappearance. Using Alina's contacts and the forged passport found earlier, he assumed a new identity and escaped through Oman. Investigators believed he used a burned, unidentifiable body from a local morgue to fake his own death, ensuring that authorities would close the case. For the next 5 years, he lived in South Africa under the name David Ramirez, running a small import business and pretending to be a widower. His downfall came unexpectedly. During a routine financial audit, one of his old offshore accounts was flagged by international banking authorities. The name matched the passport found in the desert SUV, triggering an investigation that led to his arrest. When confronted with evidence, Omar confessed in chilling detail. Every transfer, every lie, every crime. When Mariam saw him again in the courtroom, he looked like a stranger. The man she once trusted had buried her world in the sands of his greed. His calm expression showed no remorse. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without parole. The story of Omar Al Sayeed became one of Dubai's most haunting crimes. A reminder that sometimes evil hides behind the warmest smiles and that the desert never forgets the secrets buried beneath its endless dunes.